So Graham, what we're going to do is we're just going to look at this framework that really will help you with, I guess, with your team get into the whole subject of their personal development plans. So we're going to use this thing called the Identity Iceberg. So here's a terribly drawn iceberg, okay? And what's the obvious thing that we all know about icebergs?
70% of it is underwater.
Okay, absolutely. 70% is underwater. So again, what we're looking at here just now is we're looking at the things that people in your life, in your occupation, in your whatever you're doing, we're looking at the things that people can see. So what sits above the water here is everyone can see the kind of results that you are managing to achieve. So again, you could take the view that said, look, if you're in a sales environment, well, people can see the scoreboard to see where you sit within, within the rest of the team. But even if we take this to life, the house that you live in just now, the bank balance that you have, the car you drive, your educational status, all of these things are the results that you've got in your life so far. Make sense? Yep. Okay, so they're all quite visible. Now, the results come from you doing stuff. So things like the actions that you take on a daily basis, on a repeated basis, or maybe maybe that you don't take, lead you to a certain set of results. The decisions that you have made in your life and make on a regular basis, they also will affect the kind of results that you ultimately get. And then the behaviors that you display and show up with, again, will affect your results.
So the actions you take, decisions you make.
Yeah, and behaviors you display.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, okay, let's give that a couple of quick examples. Okay, let's just say the behaviors. Let's imagine that you are a highly disciplined person that makes the decision to get out of bed each morning and go to the gym, right?
Yep.
What kind of result do you think that would give you? You know, again, you would assume that that's going to give you the positive result around body shape and level of energy and so on and so forth. But actually the behaviors you could display are, I'm sloppy, I'm a bit disorganized, I roll out of bed and then can't be arsed is a decision and therefore I just sit around picking fluff out my belly button for the day, right? Now that will also give you a result. It's probably just not going to be that great of a result.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you want to change your results, you can start to look to change these things that are quite obvious to others. Others can see it and you can certainly see it in yourself. However, sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes you can hack around and try and change things, but there's something that holds you back from really making the change that ultimately gives you what the result is that you're after. And this is where we have to, in the analogy now of the iceberg, we need to go below the waterline. But really what this means as humans is to go inside of ourselves and have a look at ourselves. And the way that I would look at this is to say, let's go kind of one layer deeper and just say, okay, what about looking at our skills? Because if I want to change my result, and again, I like to use the, I came from a sales background, but it's an easy example for people to understand. But let's just imagine I want to have more sales on the board, so to speak. Well, actually, one of the first things that I could do is say, okay, I need to sharpen up on my selling skills.
Yeah.
And there's a whole, again, sales is just a set of skills that you can learn and become better. So again, I could do all the courses, read the books and so on and so forth. And actually, I could then get better by deploying those skills that I've learned.
Yep.
All right. So that's the kind of the first thing. So again, as you kind of start talking to your team about, okay, what's the result that they want to achieve? What are they currently doing just now that is either helping them to get the result or hindering them from getting a better result? But then ask them to do a little audit and say, okay, what about your skills? how good are you at certain things? Break it down. So in sales, we'd break it down. It says, look, how good are you at planning and preparing for a sales meeting? What's your level of ability to build rapport with someone for the first time? What do your questioning skills look like? What are your listening skills? What's your ability to handle? Now you can break all of these things down, and that's certainly a thing I would recommend that anyone does, to say, okay, let's break it down into its constituent parts so that we can focus in on the bits that make the biggest difference.
So to bring this back, if we're looking at a PDP,
yeah,
personal development plan, then we would then be looking at those skills and then saying, well, these are the skills. Once you've broken it down, these are the different components that we should be looking to improve to then influence those results.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. A nice example, again, if I just build on the one that I've got here around sales, but you could be really, really good at most of the aspects of sales, and they fall into different individual sets of skills. But if you're really good at all of them, and then you stand back, or a coach or a manager stands back and watches you, and then sees what the result you get through the other end of the process, they might be able to say, look, let's just imagine there's 6 steps in a selling cycle. And you can say, look, you're bloody good at 5 of them, but see this one here, that's the one where the issue was created there, because you're not displaying the kind of level of skill set that will make the next step easier, and so on. Yeah. A big example might be, it says, you might be good at everything, but actually if you're just lacking something in terms of building rapport, then you might never make a success, or you make a lot less successful sales than if you were really good.
Or another one, so say for example, the results were financial management or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're not recording the data in the first place properly, how are you ever going to be able to manage your finances properly on the other side? Or if it was sales or marketing, or let's say operations side, then if it was the operations side, then if your results is the number of widgets delivered or the number of activities completed, then the skills associated with that would be how good are you at managing the other people who are actually creating those widgets.
Correct.
Or how is there targets involved in doing that, or is the system up to scratch, etc. Is that right?
Yeah, you're just breaking down the overall operation into its component parts. It says, okay, if you do this, 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 and this, you get the kind of result that you're after. And therefore, to what extent are we managing our ability to perform at a high level in each of those areas? Yeah. So that would be like a skills audit that said, and hopefully we get people who are themselves ready, willing, and fired up by their own development to say, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to try and be protective of my position and scared to say in front of you, actually, do you know what? I'm maybe not quite so hot in these areas. You want a really self-aware person writing their own personal development plan.
Yeah.
Because what are you likely to do as their, and again, I'm putting in inverted commas, your coach, yes, you're their employer, manager, but you're their coach in this instance, because it's about their personal development. You're coaching them. What are you likely to do if someone has got the courage to say, Graham, I'm not quite so strong in these areas, but I'd like to get better? What are you likely to do?
That's exactly what we want to hear. How can I work? How can I help you?
100%. And that's what a coach is there to do, is help. Okay, fine, great. We're clear on what we want to do. So, but again, let's kind of build on the same example. Now, we could learn sales skills, but the next level down here is, what about beliefs? What are our beliefs? So again, let's just imagine, and now I know you've got a positive view of sales, but I often kind of ask people and say, okay, if I were to just throw to you the word salesman or saleswoman, what are the first set of thoughts that come into your mind?
Sleazy, etc., etc., etc.
Right. Now, that's what happens. Now, I know that you and I have both got a much different view on it, and I want to explain that. But if I want to become better at sales, I read all the books, I do all the learning on skills. That's good. But if I hold a belief, which I think is a disempowering belief, but I don't know that. I just got a belief that says sleazy, money grabbing, sort of smarmy, quick talking, double glazing salesman, if that's in my belief set, what do you think that's going to do to my ability to deploy the skills that I've got?
Rubbish.
Right.
It would hold you back.
Hold you back. Now, if I then reframe that belief into saying, actually, sales is actually much more, or a good salesman is someone who genuinely can ask great questions to uncover a need with a view to then matching up potentially a service that he or she may have in order to help the client or the prospect advance to a better position than they are currently. Right? So this is about professionally helping someone to buy. Now, again, that's maybe not a very well articulated kind of summary of good selling, but it's much more empowering, hopefully, than the latter or the former. Okay. Again, it's your belief can either disempower you or empower you to deploy your skills in a different way.
Yeah.
So we need to sometimes challenge our beliefs. Again, you've heard the phrase about limiting beliefs. Okay, how do you get some self-empowering beliefs? But then go deeper. What about values? What are the things that we hold as important in our lives? So what happens if it's, people might have a value acceptance. It's important to me to be accepted. People have a sense of belonging. They want to be, if you've got a value of acceptance, there's nothing wrong with that. I would, who am I to kind of challenge someone's values unless they're kind of fundamentally, morally and ethically wrong? But all I'd say is potentially it might be an inhibitor to performance if acceptance is a value I hold quite high up on my set of values.
Yeah.
Why do you think that would be in a sales environment, using this example?
Because you said it earlier on, belief. When we were talking about beliefs, you've got to question. You can't just accept things. You've got to ask the questions, dig deeper, find out what the pain someone's going through, and then figure out if you can actually solve that problem or not.
Right. Okay. It's a different angle on it.
What were you going to say?
No, but it's interesting, kind of, because maybe it's interesting, kind of what people play back to you, because I think for me what that says is you're right. Actually, the job of a good salesperson isn't just to accept what's been given to them. They have to dig deeper and really question and probe and challenge, right? Where I think I was going with this was to say, look, actually, if I've got a value that I want to be accepted, well, I know that in sales, you have to then get to a point in the process whereby you have to ask for the sale. And when you ask for the sale, you put yourself into a position whereby someone is going to say yes or no.
Or reject. Yeah.
And if someone's going to reject you, that then says, well, I've not been accepted. And if I haven't been accepted, it grates against one of my key values. So therefore, I might hold myself back from ever advancing to the point where I can ask for the sale. Right? So again, we need to sometimes challenge our values to help us unlock the extent to which we can then do the things that we want to do to get the results we want to have. And then identity. How do you view yourself? Again, if I've got an identity, just playing back on one of the earlier points, if I have an identity of, I feel a bit sleazy, it's then you're not going to view yourself too well. If I view myself as, look, I genuinely could be the solution to this person's situation that moves them forward to a better life, well, that's how you see yourself. It's this idea of what you say to yourself about yourself when you're by yourself. It's the voice in the head. And then the final part of this whole idea is, if you want to change the shape of an iceberg, then you would effectively crank up the heat of the water around it. Literally will change shape. So the environment is this idea of, okay, what's the environment that you put yourself into, or your team members, as in you become the average of the 5 people you hang around with most. So what's going into people's heads? What are they educating themselves on? What perspectives, opinions, views do people have that they're listening to? Again, this is the whole, are you surrounding yourself with mood lifters or mood hoovers? Are you putting yourself into positions whereby everyone's better than you because they lift you up? You can strive to kind of almost better your performance, but like playing a game of tennis, you want to play against someone who's better than you because they stretch you, as opposed to beating someone who's worse than you.
Yeah.
So that's the 9 steps. Now, just to kind of tie this all up for you, if we look at it this way, I asked you about the other concepts that we've got that I know you know, which is results. Because one of the things you're going to have to do with your team members as you go into PDPs is say, look, what result do you want to have, right? And this is where, have is the right word. Okay, clarity of goal is really important here. What do you want to have? Okay, this stuff here is about, okay, what are the things that you'll need to do in order to get the result you want to have? But all of this stuff here is, who do you need to be, or who do you need to become in order to possibly do the things you need to do to have the things you want to have? So be times do equals have, which is the other concept you'll be familiar with, is how this plays out in personal development.
Yep.
And it's this bit here. A lot of people try and do a lot of work on what I need to do, but actually become someone different or better, and actually a lot of the things that you then have to do get a lot easier.
Yeah.
And that's really the shape of a personal development plan that just says, do a bit of an audit of these things, and then start to lay out a bit of a plan that you are excited by, that moves you to become a different person, a better person. And there's nothing wrong with who you are. I always like to say that. Nothing wrong with who you are, but everyone strives for progression and more. Certainly who are engaged in personal development. And therefore, that's what we're looking for here. So, there endeth the lesson. Comments based on that?
No, it's good. And then, so the bit about, so it's a very nice way of structuring it down. So above the water elements of saying the actions you take, the decisions you make, and the behaviors that you display are a really nice, simple way which break people down into the results that someone can actually get. So those things that people are doing, that one's really, really, really good. And it will be very clear, I think, to anyone who actually comes across this stuff. The stuff which is the B is harder to, might be harder for some people to grasp. And I think that's probably where people are going to have to do a wee bit of self-reflection about saying, well, what the hell are my values? You said acceptance. Do I actually have a problem with that? Why is, I'm especially if you're doing the stuff above the water already, if you're already feel like you're displaying the behaviors and making good decisions and you're taking action and you're still not getting those results, then that might be a case where people have to look at those B things and actually have a wee bit more self-awareness. So yeah, and in terms of environment, so a couple of questions on that. How, so an environment within a company's context, a business's context. Obviously, this is the first one that springs to mind, so it's probably terrible, but it's the first one that springs to mind. If you're trying to quit smoking, stop hanging around smokers. Or if you're trying to quit alcohol, then stop. That's easy examples to give.
Good example.
Within a company's context, the environment, does that come back to the values and the behaviors that is that culture? So that the other people within the company are displaying. That will be part of it. But then is there also the other part of the management, so what's expected of that individual for the environment as well? Am I making sense? It's those three things really that actually make the difference. So the people who are around you within the company, the culture of the company itself, so the behaviors that other people are displaying, as well as what your manager is expecting of you as a person.
Yeah.
that's that comes back to results. Those are the only real things that you can control within the environment of a business, or is there something I'm missing?
So I want to give you a good answer to this. So I'm pondering because it's a really good question. You use some nice examples at the start there around if you're a smoker or a drinker, then take yourself literally out of the physical environment.
Yep.
That otherwise would be surrounding yourself with the thing you want to move away from.
Yep.
Okay, so that's almost a move away from that environment, but there's also a move into a particular environment. So a good example might be, okay, let's take the mastermind principle, Think and Grow Rich, kind of talked about that. The environment of going into a group of people who can give you different perspectives, who are there to challenge you, to cheer you on, to support you. That's an environment that you would choicefully put yourself into because you think, actually, I think I could learn something here. Right? So there's that. There's also the environment, which actually doesn't have to involve people, but it's the environment of what you create in your head. Because actually, I could choose to just put BBC News in my ears and listen to all the crap of the day. I'm putting myself in. I'm being influenced by what I'm hearing, or I could then say, do you know what? You'd be a bit of a fool to kind of. I don't watch the news, right? But to a point you have to. There's again, everyone's different, but my personal view is, like, I would be an absolute bloody idiot if I kind of looked at you blankly and said, what's coronavirus?
Yeah.
You got to know enough stuff, of course. But my point is, I would rather put stuff into my head which is helpful, constructive, positive, inspiring, whatever it might be, that advances me towards the things that I want to do. And this is not for selfish gain, remember. This is for, actually, how do I become a better individual so that I can actually have more impact with my family, with my community, and so on and so forth. So
But that's your values. Some people might be selfish gain. So it's whatever works for that person.
Correct. So I think the environment is something that you can choose to put yourself into or take yourself out of, whether that involves people or just yourself. And it's the kind of what's going on in your head. Does that help in any way from an environment point of view?
Yeah.
Now, the values of the business, you're right. Now, it might be that if actually you've and you're spot on with regards to self-reflection. Most people won't know what their values are because they've never stopped to think about it. But again, this is harder. So you're spot on. This is absolutely harder, and it's why the biggest change happens when you go into the stuff that's harder.
Yeah.
Because then you start to, and you use the word awareness. Well, that's what coaching is shining a bit of a light on a darker area that you've never really looked at before. But once people start to think, oh, bloody hell, if I were just to reframe my thoughts around what sales is, for example, yeah, you're right. If I viewed it that way, well, that's an entirely different angle to look at the situation.
Yeah.
So but you might find that your values, as the example, well, I've got a set of values, and the values of this company, there's a mismatch.
Yeah.
A quick example: I've always said I would never work for a fag company. When I left uni, was it Philip Morris and some of these bigger companies? And again, just they're making good money and all the rest of it. I just wouldn't ever work for that kind of company because it wasn't my values would say I don't want to do that. Does that make sense? Now, I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm just saying that they're not for me. So there is that bit. Which, am I going off on a tangent here, or is that supporting your point?
No. But it is the thing. So that I just keep, the more you're speaking, I'm thinking values within a business, at least. Values and environment are so closely related, because if the values are wrong, the environment or the culture is going to be wrong. And equally, if the environment's crap, then then you've got to look back at your values and have you hired the right people, or if you made the wrong decisions in terms of how you manage people and communication.
Well, good example.
It's not necessarily relevant right now, but I was just thinking about it as you were speaking. Yeah.
But if you've got on Credos, your set of values, your acronym, on that, now you have got stuff that's around growth, development, learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Ali HK, he's got, you know, relentless learning as one of their values. So therefore, it would be a surprise to me if I didn't witness in the environment that business creates, you know, lots of books on the shelves, lots of opportunities within the working week for people to engage in some level of learning.
Yeah.
That's the environment that he would have created as a consequence of having that value.
Yeah. Cool.
So where does that get us, mate? Because I can see you looking down, which means you're thinking and processing.
I've been looking all over the place while you've been speaking.
Yeah.
It means that, okay, well, let's tie this back to your PDF that you showed me with those questions, the one that I've got in the office, if that's possible.
Yeah. So where did we put it? Oh, it was this one. That one?
Oh, bollocks. I can't see. You're not screenshot. Yeah.
Of it? Or not?
Nope.
Sorry, mate.
You're still recording.
My part. Oh,
that's
right,
stopping you.
Sorry. Right. Okay. So how's that then? Can you see that now?
Come on. There we go. Yep, got it.
So so that basically, we've just kind of talked about the iceberg, and really all this is to say, look, here are some helpful questions.
Yeah.
Just so you can kind of get into that kind of conversation, either with yourself or with your team. But what you will notice, mate, is that there's a bit of, how do you tee this up? How do you have an initial conversation with the team? But it does require them to go off and do a bit of reflection. And this is not about just scribbling in these tiny little boxes. This is about saying, okay, do I get a blank sheet of paper and just map out all my behaviors? Next blank sheet of paper, all my skills. So, you know, don't be kind of constrained to the boxes. This is just for illustration purposes. It's a way of structuring thinking.
And if you were my manager, and if I was doing this, you were getting me to complete a PDP, and this was the start of the process, would you sit down and take someone through this process initially? You know, walk them through it, or is this something which is more, this feels a wee bit more personal in some cases in terms of beliefs and that sort of stuff, where some people might want to do that by themselves before. I mean, I'm not fussed at all, but some others might feel, you know, no, I need to go and do this, and it's more of a case of saying to the person, go away and spend, you know, an hour at least on this, please, over the next week, and then revisit it again a second time and see and make sure that this is, you know, when you read it back to yourself, it resonates with you, and it's not just fluff that you've put down to fill an hour. And then off the back of that, that's when you come back, and then, sorry, I'm answering the question myself, but then you would come back and you'd then go through the process again with that person. So you'd set the task for someone to go and, you know, share the logic behind going through this process. They go away, do it, revisit it, and then come back and then revisit together so team member and manager to then go through it and then build from there.
Yeah, okay. I like it. So I just pick up on one thing you said there. This is a logical process for what I would describe as an emotional journey. Because if this is just a logical thing for people to do, guess what? There's probably going to be very little excitement in there. And
Yeah.
the thing that I like to kind of say is like, how do you light a fire underneath someone so that they themselves can be sufficiently inspired and then self-motivated to say, I want to do this. Now that only comes through emotion. Now, we've laid it out in a structure, and it probably looks more logical than it does emotional, but you want people to kind of, and the way you're describing it is right. This is a life's work, arguably. Do
Yeah.
you never stop reviewing this, but
Yeah.
and also recognizing that most people have certainly not gone much below the waterline, or certainly below skills. So I would have struggled. In fact, I did struggle the very first time I saw this, and I thought, shit, what are my beliefs? I've got no idea. I need time to think about these things. So I certainly wouldn't be. I mean, and I'm an I, and you're an I, and so I'm faster thinking than some of the others. Again, I'm not. That doesn't say cleverer, by the way. It says thoughts come to me faster. But actually,
Yeah.
the C's and S's, they want to really think about this. So actually, you've got to now. I also like to give an explanation of this because I want to just at least get people thinking. And the reason I use one example kind of from top to bottom, i.e. sales, because it's pretty easy to understand, but you can see how it might all work. But you might choose to say, look, actually, I want a different result. You could probably do this. If the result is I want to have a different girlfriend, you could probably just say new girlfriend or better quality relationship could be the
Yeah.
result, and then you work it through. You could then say, I want to have a better level of retention with my current clients. That's the result I want to have. And then you go back through it. So it's not just to say, I want a better life, and you try and solve everything in this structure. You just break it off piece by piece, and you put everything through that filter.
Yeah. Good.
So that, yeah, yeah. So I think it's an iterative process. To answer your question, it's yes, give them, it'll have to be explained. Because to give them it just like this, it's like, oh, I've got no idea where to start. But if you can build your example, or even show them part of this video, that
Yeah.
show them that, and let them, okay, what does it mean to you?
Yeah.
Kick it around in their heads, and then just give it. But almost, what's helpful is, see up in the top corner, get people to write draft 1, then draft 2,
Yeah.
draft 3, because it's an iterative process.
Yeah.
It's not a I'll fill the boxes out, then that job's done, move on to the next thing. No. This is it forever now. If you believe in this whole idea of be do have.
Yeah. It's good. It's good stuff.
So yeah, well, it is when people kind of really do something about it. So I guess let's kind of bring it down to what's going to happen as a consequence of this little chat.
Exactly what I just said. So I'll introduce it to the team.
Okay.
It won't be this week because we've already got stuff scheduled for this week. It'll be next week, next Thursday. I'll introduce it to the team. We'll set aside half an hour, say, maybe 45 minutes. Go through it, introduce it to them, get them to get involved in it, try and make it as personal to them as possible. Because again, it's not introducing it to the team. It's introducing. Actually, no, I shouldn't introduce it to the team. No, I shouldn't introduce it to the team.
Okay.
If I introduce it to the team, I'm going to be introducing it to. It won't be individual. It won't be personal. And if I'm going to be successful with this, I need to make it personal to them. I need to get them sharing their own opinions, which they might not share if they're in a group of other people. Within the thing. So this needs to be done as a part of a one-to-one or after a one-to-one, or this needs to be done as a process through that, individually through that thing. And what is it you said as well at the, or no, it was what Rob said.
Mm-hmm.
Rob said, which is a team, or you don't manage a team, you manage the individuals within that team.
Yeah.
So I need to go through the process with the individuals, and then check on the individuals, and then they'll all do it in isolation, but we'll get it off the back of that. That's the way I see it. That's the way to go.
Great. Well, there you go. Mate, that sounds like a nice plan. I can understand the rationale behind it as well. And if they'll need an explanation to this. Now, again, you might choose, again, just to give some options, you might choose to say, look, I'll send a snippet of the video so you've got an understanding, or I will explain it, almost structure the session. It just says, look, let me explain something first and then let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. That sounds like a nice plan. And out of interest, is there any one person or a couple of people that might be more up for this kind of thing than others, do you think?
No. I think they'll all be up for it. I think, though, that it will be more difficult to get some of this stuff out of them. So, again, you said that it went back to disc profiles. Caitlin and I be able to get this out of her really quickly. She'll talk about values and beliefs and that sort of stuff quite openly. Everyone else, they'll be a wee bit more guarded about this information, so we'll have to tease it out of them. But that's okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I think that's it. They're all different, and listen, any effort on this stuff, if people genuinely go into it with an open mind and just say, like, I'm going to try my best at doing this, that's a massive step forward from what they've done before, which was probably not much.
yeah, exactly.
So this is not about saying I want to just go from 0 to 10 out of 10. This is about saying, actually, I want to go from 0 to maybe even 3 out of 10. And then draft 2 will be better and better and better as they get more and more used to it. And it might be that people can only go that far.
Yeah.
And then they have to kind of maybe do a bit of reading or learning about, well, what does a value look like? How do I understand that bit? And so on. So it's an iterative process. And the reason I asked about, is there any one person or a couple of people that might be more inclined to do this well? Because again, not everyone in a population is going to be up for this. So you can't foist personal development onto people. They have to want it. So this idea of, you don't cast pearls to swine. And it sounds a terrible thing to say, because none of your team are that. But if no one's listening, if no one wants to kind of be part of that, then don't bother forcing it down their throats. Go and speak to the people who actually, do you know what, I'm quite interested in that. And it's the most important thing, because again, go back to the point, performance is in the hands of the performer. It's up to them, and some will, some won't.